Hello there, friends. Thank you for clicking on this video. I want to thank all of you for your comments of support in the comment sections underneath these videos. I'd like to also thank the new subscribers and welcome aboard. And I certainly hope that if you find any of my content beneficial, that you will please take the time to obviously like and subscribe and to share this with your bestest of buddies. Now, the other day I was out here doing some weight comparisons with some of my homemade gunpowder. In particular, the fresh batch of barberry I made a couple months ago. I haven't shot it yet, and also with the basswood. And having in mind a comment that Jake made on his channel, Everything Black Powder, he had made some gunpowder, black powder, with balsa wood, and as I mentioned in a previous video, that reminded me that I had some basswood. And I made that powder, that gunpowder, and then I just decided to do some comparisons with weight. Now, I understand, so I need you to comprehend also. A lot of people say that black powder is measured by volume. That is true if you are comparing it to a synthetic black powder, such as Pyrodex, 777, Black MZ. You are not comparing powder to powder. So you have to bear in mind that as I go through this, I am weighing 70 grains of GOEX 3F. And my comparisons are going to be with weight in my homemade gunpowder, just simply because I want to see if the specific gravity of the wood being used as a charcoal affects the end product. Now, Jake made a comment on his channel that he's actually pucking it, turning right around and repucking it, and I'm not so sure that that's actually going to increase the density of your gunpowder, just simply because you're only repucking, whether that be, in my case, under a 12-ton jack or a 20-ton jack, because you're exerting 8 more tons with a 20-ton jack as opposed to mine 12. So we should not be expecting to reach a weight by weight measurement of your homemade gunpowder. And what I discovered is, what I would like to share, is that the specific gravity of the wood at the time you use, at the time you're making your charcoal, may have an effect to what your gunpowder weighs as an end result. Now, before I get into showing my comparisons, I did do this the other day, and then it made me think about specific gravity. Now, I've been making bows. My first primitive archery magazine that I ever bought was back in 1997, and I've been building bows since this time period, okay? And being a proficient bow builder, you have to work within a specific set of numbers, and in particular, the specific gravity of the wood. Just real briefly, if there's too much moisture in the wood when you build the bow, then your limbs are going to take a heavy set. And if you're building a bow with too less moisture in the wood, as you work the limbs will come apart because there's not enough moisture to stabilize it. Well, whether we may think about specific gravity or not, I just kind of want to show that it does play a part in your end product, because I believe at this point, with what I've experimented with, and I'll be repeating it, I got different results, in particular with my barberry, and I'm going to point that out. Now, with that name Barberry firmly in mind, I decided to go on the internet to see if I could find what the specific weight or the specific gravity of barberry was. And I could not find anywhere on the internet what the specific gravity of barberry is. And there again, depending on how long you dry it, when you start using it, that specific gravity is going to change. So when I talk about this from here on out, I only want you friends to think about at the optimal level, okay? Not something that still got too much moisture or too less. I'm talking about the optimal, point that you want to use this in your gunpowder. So, not finding specifically barberry, I was getting a little frustrated. And what I did find in the way of barberry online is Japanese barberry, and according to what the photographs of Japanese barberry is completely different than what people around here call this barberry. And I've also heard people around here call this mountain mahogany. So I went to mountain mahogany, nothing. So I remembered at that time that some time back there was an article, there we go, in the Primitive Archer magazine that discussed this particular wood. And its real name is Agrita. So once I went through my back issues, took me about an hour to go through all my back issues, and they have in every issue of Primitive Archer magazine, they have a section called Medicine Man. And in that section they take different woods, different berries, and how our forefathers, or maybe even the Native American Indians, harvest these groups of woods and trees and shrubs and stuff and made medicines and whatever they needed to make for survival. So I discovered by rereading this article that is called Agarita. There we go, Agarita. But the reason why I thought it was barberry, because the article mentions that it's in the barberry family. And the Agarita bush is also known by Mahonia. And I think that that's why some people will mistakenly call it mountain mahogany. And that does play a part in specific gravities. Now I have to tell you friends, I never found the specific gravity of Agarita. Okay? But that bush that I am using as barberry, the real name should be called Agarita. So anyhow, with that in mind, I decided to do a little bit more research regarding specific gravities. And this may be telling. Now, from what I understand, and what I'm given to understand, Goex, or even American-made black powders, true black powders, are made with the silver leaf maple. Now if you go back on this channel, you'll see that I made some gunpowder, black powder with sugar maple, thinking maybe the sugar in that maple would help burn faster and everything else. You can go back on the channel and you can find that. So I was given to understand that it's silver leaf maple. Now the specific gravity, now remember, it's most optimal number. Silver leaf maple has a specific gravity of 0.53. Okay? Now I know that there's some stuff out there talking about buckthorn alder. Well, I found the specific gravity of buckthorn alder. Do not confuse that with European alders, because there is a difference. Buckthorn alder has a specific gravity of 0.050, okay? And we should already recognize that when they do the specific gravity, this is measured in water, okay? And they usually take like a 1 by 1 by 1, set it in the water, and then they measure what the buoyancy is. So buckthorn alder, like silver leaf maple, is right at the 0.050 or 0.053. So they are very comparable as far as the optimal specific gravity. Now, I found it interesting that the European alders have a specific gravity of 0.043. Basswood can range anywhere from 0.032 to 0.042. So if you can get your basswood to the 0.042, then you're right in line with the European alders at 0.043. Now, I did take a few moments to find out what the specific gravity of balsa wood is, and it's 0.017. So, and I think most of us already know that balsa wood is extremely light. Now, because of myself being a bow builder, I have Boyer's Bibles 1, 2, and 3. And in Boyer's Bible number 1, they have a pretty in-depth specific gravity chart. And this is supposed to be used by people making bows so that you'll know exactly what you need to do with the bow wood. But I found it interesting going over some of this stuff that an elm has a specific gravity of 0.055, which would put you right in line with your silver maples. Maybe it's a little more dense, but it does kind of put you right in line with that. Douglas fir, the heartwood, is 0.045. So there again, you're with your Douglas fir in the heartwood, that's putting you right in the same area of your alders at 0.043. So just going down, and the thing that I wanted to really focus on was my junipers. And this book doesn't have a specific number other than just low to medium. Now, when you look at what I did with the side-by-side comparison in the clear glass jars, you can kind of see how that works with willow, which has a specific gravity of 0.039. So that 0.039 gets you within that low range of basswood, doesn't it? Because as I stated, the basswood is 0.032 to 0.042. So willow puts you right in that range of basswood, which I found very encouraging. There was another one that I wanted to look at here, Raymond wood. That has a specific gravity of 0.052. So Raymond wood might be one of those woods you might want to use as a charcoal for making homemade gunpowder, and also hackberry has a specific gravity of 0.050. So those are just some things that I wanted to share, and I want to show by way of my two barberries that difference in the wood being dried too much or being too wet will affect the end product. So I'm going to repeat it, but I just kind of want to show what I observed the other day. And once again, my powder measure off camera is preset to 70 grains by weight, and that's GOEX 3F. And I'm going to kind of get up to the camera, and I don't know if you guys will really see it, but if you can focus, you can see the number 70 right there. And I actually settled it, and then I filled it up and leveled it off. Okay, so this is what I'm going to use for my measuring device and transfer that into my RCBS scale, which has been properly zeroed out and leveled. So the willow, I needed 9 more grains to equal the 70 grains by weight of GOEX 3F. Okay, and the juniper, I needed about 15 more grains to equal the weight of the GOEX 3F. So, how did I do with the basswood? Well, the basswood, I needed 6 more grains to equal the 70 grains by weight of GoX 3F. So there again, most of us should already recognize that I'm not saying anything here that most of us are not already familiar with. With your homemade gunpowders, you want to add another, 5 grains, 10 grains to kind of equal by weight what a factory GoX is. Now what that translates shooting in front of a chronograph, that's a different story, and hopefully I get a little bit more time here in the summer, I can actually do that. So what I'm going to do at this point, because if you scroll back on this channel with my barberry, my original batch of gunpowder that I made with barberry, whoops, wrong can, I used barberry that had gone through a fire on my property, and within a couple of months I was cutting up that barberry, Agarita, and cooking that to the point of where I could use it for the charcoal. Okay, so that particular batch of wood had a little higher moisture content. I can't tell you what the specific gravity was because I didn't bother to weigh it. And then that particular batch of barberry was milled one time, pucked, screened, and all the powder was put back in and repulverized and then repucked and gone through the process until, so some of this in here has been pucked a couple of times, but at this point I think that's kind of irrelevant to the point that I'm trying to make. Now the second batch of barberry, you go back on the channel and you'll see what I did. I found a barberry tree, Agarita tree, that had a couple of dead limbs on it that were dead for a very long time. I cut that off the tree, chopped it up, and I charred that. And this particular batch I milled for 30 hours, thinking, like Jake, that a longer milling time produces a better burning gunpowder. So there again, milled for 30 hours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one first and I'm going to put it in my scale and I'm going to weigh it out. Well, first I'm going to put it in my measurer that's already set for 70 grains by weight, not volume. And then I'm going to add what I need into the pan here to see how much more I need to equal 70 grains by weight. So let me get that accomplished and then we'll discuss this further and I'll show you what the result is. Okay, I hope the optics look okay. From here it looks kind of goofy, but anyhow, there's the 70 grains by volume poured into the pan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of that gunpowder, which is actually screened to a 2,3F. Probably most of it leaning more towards a 3F. So I'm going to scoop up some in cc's, and my little dipper is 3 cc's. Okay, so there's 3. Six, and hopefully you can observe the scale is coming up. There's 9 cc's and we're past the point of balance. So I'm going to try to scoop some of that out as gingerly as I can to get it down to the balance. And we're still a little heavy. A little light. Couple of little flakes. Let's see here. Still a little light, so I'm going to add just a touch more. Oh, wait a minute, the scale went out. This is kind of one of the reasons why I like using a balancing scale instead of a digital scale. In my opinion, you can maybe be a little more accurate with it. Okay, I'm going to call that good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zero it out now. And I'm going to pour the pan into the powder measurer. I'm going to level it off. I should say settle it and then level it off. Okay. So I think most of us will agree that that's probably level enough, sufficient. And this is how much powder is left in the pan. So what I'm going to do now is weigh this and see by weight how much more you would need to add to be equal to 70 grains of 3F by weight, not by volume. Now the other day when I did this, I came up with 7 grams. So for me, I kind of want to do it again to see if I was on the right track originally. So I'm going to go right to 5 grams and see no movement yet. So I'm going to go to 7 grams and see where it is. Still not coming down. So here is 9 grams. Okay, so I go 1 more gram and I'm getting right around 10 grams more. Okay, now remember this particular batch of barberry, the wood was dead, decaying if you will, and dead for quite some time, so there would be little to no moisture in it at all. So if I was to take and set this back down to 0 and then move the scale on the forward end, you could see that I would need at least 10 more grains more. See? And now she's balanced. So if I wanted to equal 70 grains of this barberry in weight, I'd have to move my measurer up to 80, and then I would be matching the weight. Now, and there again, the other day when I did it, it was only 7, so right now I've only added 3 more grains, which really doesn't amount to a hill of beans. So let me get reset here, and I'm going to do the barberry that I did that had a higher moisture content. Okay, so hopefully we can come to the agreement that that's just about as level as what I've shown previously. I'm going to put that in the pan, and here again, this is 70 grains by volume right now, but I want to match 70 grains by the weight. So put that on the scale, and as you can see, let me straighten that up, and as you can see, I'm going to need to add some more to match the weight. Again, my 3cc dipper, so there's 3 cc's, and there's 6 cc's. And as you can see, the scale has gone to the top, so I need to pull some of that out. Okay, I think we're sufficiently zeroed out. So now what I want to do is put that back into the measurer, level it off, or settle it, and level it off. Okay. That's leveled off. So that's how much powder is left behind after settling it and leveling it off. Off camera, I went ahead and weighed this just for time's sake. And the other day when I did it, I came up with 4.3 grains. Right now, I am right at 5.7. So there's really not a whole lot of difference between the other day and right now, but there's a significant difference between the barberry that was cooked with a higher moisture content as opposed to my second batch that I made the charcoal from a dead branch. So, in conclusion, what I'm getting at here is that specific gravities of the wood should make a difference. I don't want to be absolute, but should make a difference in the weight of the final product. And I think I kind of demonstrated that between the two barberries. And there again, if you take some time and kind of understand these specific gravities and using these woods at the optimal moisture content, you might be producing a better cleaning gunpowder. But like I said in a previous video, when the poop hits the fan, I'm not going to wait for my wood to dry 3 years to get down to that optimal level. If you're interested in maybe achieving that at a much quicker time frame, as a bow builder, I've taken staves and put them in my vehicle, weighed it, put it in my vehicle on a hot sunny day, roll up the windows, and make sure you do it right. I'm just talking generalities right now. And then you can weigh the wood the next day and see how much is lost in weight. And do that for a couple of days. And once that wood stops losing weight, you are at the optimal use of that particular wood. So hopefully, friends, as you can hopefully see here, I don't know, it's raining outside. Not too hard right now, but hopefully sometime soon I can get out and start experimenting through my chronograph and just really see what the differences are. Because what this basically does for me right now is that it lets me know how much more gunpowder of my homemade stuff that I need to match the 70 grains of 3F GoEx. So that's kind of why I'm doing this. I wanted to share it with everybody so that we could kind of all maybe be on the same page. And there again, I do recognize when it comes to homemade gunpowder, and depending on the moisture content, the specific gravity, in my opinion, that's going to change by volume the weight of that gunpowder, because you're now dealing with the wood on a more scientific level when you're now talking about and using, the specific gravity. But as most of us already know, that a good rule of thumb is if you kind of want to match factory gunpowder and you normally shoot a 70 grain charge like I do, bump that up to 80 grains and you're going to be probably really close to what factory gunpowder does. And when we're making this stuff pretty much for, pennies, well, that extra 10 grains really doesn't amount to anything. So thanks for watching. I hope that you friends can glean something useful from this, because there are a number of us, I don't want to say trying to figure out the formula or trying to make the best, fastest, cleanest gunpowder there is, but we should be able to make a gunpowder that's close to factory and very useful. And I've mentioned this before, to me, when I'm on the shooting range, I just use a spit patch. I don't use a greased patch because grease attracts dirt. Spit, in my opinion, doesn't attract dirt. But going down a gun barrel, in my opinion only, are you really attracting more, crap down your gun barrel as opposed to a spit patch. That's just my opinion. And I'm not going to change how I shoot with the spit patch, because I've mentioned, you know, I can go 24, 25 shots. I can run an entire course without having a swab, and my accuracy stays dead on. So anyhow, enough of this rambling. Thank you for watching. I hope that you did find something beneficial, and I certainly hope that you will give this video a thumbs up, a like, and also share it with your bestest of buddies. Have a great day, guys. Bye.